This is a build known as the Weird Zealot thing. And the reason I call it the Weird Zealot thing is because everything about this build in the beginning looks like they're going to spam Void Rays until the game is over, but something changes. And the opponent provided us with a pristine example of said build, and we were able to defend it through some magic or sorcery. And I will show you these ways. So I'll just go through my build. I do the standard stuff. Set up camera keys. There's a video on that. Go browse it if you don't know how I did that. We go for a hatchery. 16 supply. 145 minerals. Send a drone toward the third base location in case of probe lock. But if there's no probe, just take the net. I was a little bit late, but I got the net. 18 gas, 17 pool. But how do we know it's going to be a Weird Zealot thing? I will show you. Gas, pool. Drones rally into the gas. The next 3 eggs. 1, 2, 3. Babazoo-wum, babazoo-wum. He did it for me. He did. It's so generous whenever you're like, I wonder if this is that weird all-in. And then they go for the weird all-in. And you defend decisively, and it's like, that's a tutorial right there. Perfect. This requires a little bit of thinking. I'm going to pull 2 workers off gas after ling speed, get a 30 supply, third base, and an overlord. And my whole goal for this match, personally, was to get this third base on time and to make an overlord. And you might be like, what? That seems easy. It seems easy, but it's very easy to mess up. The last game I was talking, I'm rusty because I haven't played in a week, and I was supply blocked for a very long time at 36 out of 36. So if that happens to you, don't feel bad. The next match that you get a Protoss, just try to get those things correct. So that was my mindset there. And already now, production tab, I got my overlord and I got my third base. So I'm feeling victorious because I'm improving at StarCraft. And this is the key. Look at this crap, dude. You see that? I double tap my overlord key. Oscar is on a hotkey. He's a very important overlord. And I don't see this blinking. It's not going right now. Why is it not going? Because the opponent is not getting warp gate. Well, why would they do that? It's because they were getting a Stargate super early. If they delay warp gate, they can get the Stargate earlier. So I know that it's not going to be one of the earliest glaive adept timings or that kind of thing. So overlord goes in, you can't explain that. And we see it's Voidray. And because Void Rays are the meta right now in PvZ, it's easy to assume that, oh my gosh, it's going to be mass Void Rays. Not necessarily. It's going to be at least 1 Void Ray. All that I've learned so far is that the Protoss took an expansion, they have an adept in the wall, they delayed warp gate to get a Void Ray, and they're going to make a Void Ray. I'll go back to my vision. I'm sending some links across the map now. The links going across whenever a link speed is done is mainly about finding a third base. Is the Protoss going Void Ray for a quick third? Or are they going for some kind of 4 gas build? Because the earliest third base times, they would be trying to send a probe right now. And this Void Ray would be here to go escort it. But there is no third base. I just checked the other third base. There's no third base. Why is there no third base? It could be a couple things with 4 gas. One of them could be they just threw down a second Stargate as soon as their first Stargate was making Void Rays, and then they crank out twice as many Void Rays. That's a good strategy. They could do that. Or in this case, they have something else going on. They have a Twilight and a Forge, which is a similar price point to taking a Nexus. It's not exactly the same, but it's pretty close. So the Protoss is still spending their money, but they're not spending it into a third, and I don't know exactly why. And the opponent killed my Overlord with their Void Ray, so I can't just go into the main and see. And there's a Void Ray here as well. So I'm like, why is there a Void Ray each third, but they don't take a third? They could take a third, but they didn't take a third. So something's up. And I know that there's 2 Void Rays worth of gas that they invested in. I'm just making drones right now. I'm getting a lair. I know that because it's 2 Void Rays, they're not going to hit me with those super early gateway timings. So I feel like I can react with Banes. So I dropped a Bane Nest here instead of a Roach Warren, and I'm attacking this probe. And I just killed a probe at around 5 minutes in. 5 minutes in the game, and there's a pylon done. And there's not a third base. Like, what is this? Why are the Void Rays not here either? I don't know. They should have been there, I think. If they intended to take that. But by killing that probe and delaying the expansion, I put my opponent in a really tough spot now. Because either they take the latest third base of all time, or they try to all-in me. Fortunately for them, they already had a Twilight Council down, so they're working on Charge. They already had a Robotics, so they're working on a Prism. And they're going to make another Void Ray because, well, Void Rays are good. You make Void Rays. And there are also 6 gateways in the production tab. I double-checked with the Lings, and there was no third base here. So we're doing some detective work, and we're more or less figuring out what's going on just by scouting outside the Protoss base without going in. And we're ruling things out. So what's one thing that I ruled out so far? I don't think that it's double Stargate Mass Void Ray. Why do I think that? Because if it was, they would probably be harassing me with them. They would be picking off these overlords. You could say this might be a slight mistake that it's this far forward. But they would be active with the Void Rays if it was like 6 Void Rays. There is a timing attack where they get +1 air weapons, and they hit me with Void Rays. But, yeah, where are the Void Rays? They're not here. So something's up. And there is a build that I will call the Weird Zealot Timing, which many Protoss have gone for. It's sort of an anti-timing in the sense that it's not optimized to be super strong. It's meant to be unexpected. The Void Rays that are made are meant to deceive the Zerg into thinking, I'm going to spam Void Rays. When really, they're spending their 2-base economy largely into Charge Lot Archon. And I have 0 roaches. The game state right now, I have 79 drones, because I like to make drones, that's how I try to play. I have 5 Lings and 10 Queens. It might feel like we're dead, but I'm not dead. This attack is kind of weak, because the Zealot count is not super high. They delayed all the ground stuff by spamming these Void Rays out, and they need to kill me with this build because they don't have a third base. So if I can just hang on, I'll be able to live. So I'm going to take my vision here. I've got my Queens in the middle. I'm filling my gases. And now, because I see that there's an attack coming, I'm going to mass static defense. I don't normally make spines like this, but I know that I overdroned for defending this attack. By seeing these units at this time, I can say the opponent probably doesn't have a third, and if they do, there's not much happening there. So I want to pull my worker count down a little bit and create some anchors for myself, because Queen Spine is way better against Zealot than just pure Queen. Spines do pretty good DPS in the early game. And these ground units have +1 attack. One really important thing here is that the Queens are all united in purpose. They're all fighting together. Every single Queen is here at the fight. I don't even have Queens at these bases. This one's here. But what I did was I just pulled the Queen from the base, and I queued up another Queen at the base. And all 3 of my bases are injected right now. So I'm just spamming Lings and Banes. I'm just holding down the Bane button. I don't have any melee upgrades. I think I had a Spire and I canceled it, just because I wanted to mass as many units as I could. And you might be saying, well, shouldn't you make Hydras or Roach Ravager or something? If the Protoss does a weird bamboozle all in like this, you just gotta make whatever unit you've unlocked with your tech, pretty much. So I'm massing Ling Bane here. Banes are pretty good against Zealots. Queens are really good against the Void Rays. And they're just pretty nice general value. So I'm going around my bases. I'm just transfusing the front Queens here. That's what I'm doing, and the rest of the Queens can A move. And the Ling Bane are more or less just A moving here. Trying to like specifically right click certain units of the Charge Lot Archon, I feel like it's not really worth the APM and the chance that you mess it up. And that's really bad for the Protoss. They weren't able to kill me with the first volley, Their first attack, they really want to kill all your queens and then get on top of your base because it's an all-in, but they didn't, which means that I have an injected hatchery here that's cranking out units. There's another queen up here with an injected hatch. I'm going to slap down a macro hatch because I've got the money. I've got income. And I'm just massing Banes. Just simple, dump all of my income. Instead of in drones, all of it goes into army, of whatever kind of army I have. If you had a Roach Warren instead of a Bane Nest, you would be massing Roach Ravager. Just try to keep your money as low as possible. Make a ton of stuff. Another thing that's kind of cool is you can get some information about the opponent's strategy just from what they're warping in. These 4 zealots could have been a nexus. I didn't scout here, so there could be a base, but there's not. There's not a base here either. So when they're doing these really heavy warp-ins, and when they do a warp-in like this, they actually just told you what their gateway count is, because they warp these in with rapid fire all at once. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I know that there are 8 gateways right now, even though I didn't scout the main base. All these gateways here could have been a third base, but it's mass gateway because we saw the warp in. Getting good at ZvP is a lot like being a good detective. You don't usually get to see the crime that's committed, but you get to gather evidence, and you can establish a motive. You kind of look around, ask questions. What's happening at the wall here? Why is there no third base here? Why do you have so many zealots in my base? And then you can spam units at the right time. And if you're trying to play a macro Zerg, generally what you want to do is you try to race for 3 base saturation, and then whenever you see aggression headed your way, you just flip the switch into full offense unit production and try to survive. So this attack did some damage. I lost over 10 drones, I lost a bunch of queens, but my infrastructure is still sound. I didn't lose any bases, and I'm still ahead in workers. So I can pretty much just keep massing units, doing the same thing of mass Ling, mass Queen, mass Bane. I did a little counterattack there, which is nice because that divides the opponent's attention. And then we just basically try to spend our money. And they will be defeated. Bombas. Queen's transfuse the spine. Ling Bane defends. I have 2 spines at the third, 2 spines at the natural. Creating anchors for the queens. And I'm transferring drones from the main and the natural to the 4th instead of making drones because my opponent is all in. And that's how you sniff out and then react to and defend the Voidray into weird zealot timing. Good luck.